What is going on, guys? It is WrestleMania here, back with another video. We already covered those wrestlers who gained fame in the WWE only to be fizzled out in WCW, so check that video out. In this video we're going to be doing the opposite and look at wrestlers who established themselves mostly in WCW, but when jumping ship to the WWE they were victims of poor booking and creative decisions, while some weren't even given a chance from the start. Just like our previous video, these wrestlers realized the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. Number 1. Diamond Dallas Page. Dallas was one of the WWE's first biggest signings after buying out WCW, and was one of the rare ex-WCW talent to accept buyouts of their AOL Time Warner contracts to sign with the WWE. Dallas had tremendous success in WCW, becoming the fourth wrestler to become a Triple Crown champion. With that success under his belt, he entered the WWE as a heel amidst the invasion, which was the WWE's first mistake, as DDP thrived in WCW as being a charismatic face. The second mistake was making him a stalker to Taker's then wife, Sarah Calloway. Taker gave DDP nothing throughout the feud and led to a quick burial with no heat. WWE finally learned from the mistake, and DDP resurfaced in 2002 as a babyface, becoming European champion, which was a far cry from his achievements in WCW. By then it was apparent that it was all too late, and Dallas was getting past his prime at the age of 46. DDP could have been huge if he was used correctly in the WWE. Instead, he has made better use of his talents outside the ring, rehabilitating former wrestlers the likes of Jake Roberts and Scott Hall with the use of his DDP yoga program. Number 2. Big Van Vader. The Mastodon Vader was built in WCW as a dominant force and stood out as a monster heel. The WWF took notice and signed him in early 1996, making his debut at the Royal Rumble. Even though he was eliminated, he made a huge impact by eliminating a number of wrestlers. Vader would continue his heel gimmick by battering WWF officials, including President Gorilla Monsoon, and seemed poised for big things. Eventually, Vader main evented SummerSlam 1996 with Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship, and there have been long rumors to suggest Vader was to come out on top, if not for Michaels' heavy backstage influence and prima donna attitude in the ring. From there, Vader slumped into the mid-card, having less than memorable feuds before having his last feud with Kane. Vader was literally reduced to being a jobber, putting over Mark Henry, Edge, and Bradshaw, who were hardly main eventers at the time. Vader left the WWF shortly after, returning to Japan. Number 3. Buff Bagwell. Bagwell had been in WCW for 11 years. He was never a main eventer, but he stuck it out, going from one half of the American Males, winning the Tag Team Championship on 4 occasions, to being at WCW until the very end as one half of Totally Buffed with Lex Luger. Bagwell, like DDP, also accepted the offered buyout to his AOL Time Warner contract to immediately sign with the WWE. This, I'm sure in hindsight, was Bagwell's biggest regret, as he lasted one televised match on the ill-fated WWE's version of WCW. The match apparently was so bad that the WWE decided to scrap the idea entirely. Along with the supposed bad backstage attitude, the match also attributed to Bagwell's firing, where he was literally thrown out the building by both Angle and Austin. Number 4. Scott Steiner. Steiner is one of wrestling's most controversial characters and is infamous for his shoot-like promos with unscripted profanity and sexual innuendos. He was also WCW's most compelling performer. His hard-man, loose cannon and egotistical character was believable, and most importantly, he thrived as a heel. His return to the WWE in 2003 was lackluster, and for good reasons. Firstly, he was brought in as a babyface, which was a complete contradiction to his character in WCW, which was what got him over in the first place. Steiner was not physically 100%, as he hadn't recovered from nerve damage he suffered at his foot during the end of his WCW days, and wasn't able to perform at his best throughout his tenure there, including his match with Triple H. Steiner was a big money investment who should have been protected, utilized better, and always presented as a star. Instead, WWE exposed him, buried him, and presented him as a mid-carder. Thankfully, Steiner was given a second chance to redeem himself in TNA in 2006. Number 5. The New World Order. The NWO was arguably one of the best angles ever in WCW, fooling viewers into thinking there had been a real war going on between two companies. The faction was clearly at its best when it had the original 3, Hogan, Hall, and Nash, but it arguably got out of hand when numbers had quadrupled. At No Way Out in 2002, WWE fans were given a sight they thought they would never see: the NWO at a WWE event, laying out Stone Cold and spraying the infamous initials on his back. Fans had high hopes, but it's clear the NWO only worked because of the right place and the right time. Before internet, before the idea that anybody could just jump ship and the fact that it became its own identity. Plans for the NWO feuding with top stars such as The Rock and Austin only lasted until WrestleMania 18, and it seems that the WWE didn't have time to invest into such an angle and relied purely on hype. With Kevin Nash injured and Scott Hall fired, new additions such as X-Pac and Big Show did nothing for the group except lose momentum. Number 6. Dean Malenko. As Ric Flair once put it, Malenko was arguably one of the best workers alive, but due to his size and charisma, he never reached the heights of main event level in WCW. He did, however, achieve moderate success putting on intense and exciting cruiserweight bouts, had a strong feud with Chris Jericho as the man who would better Malenko as the man of 1004 holds, and then later joined the ranks of the Four Horsemen. When leaving WCW, Malenko started off hot, coming in as part of the Radicals in WWF in 2000 and then becoming light heavyweight champion. It fulfilled the excitement of good work rate in matches that was missing in the Attitude Era. Then Malenko became 007, a parody of James Bond, and then competed for the affections of Lita, leading to a creepy Malenko watching and trying to join her in the shower. This changing character wasn't a great step forward and a role that clearly didn't suit him. Number 7. Ricky Steamboat. Steamboat boasted great success in his first run in the WWF as Intercontinental Champion. He then left for WCW where he was boosted to main event status, beating Ric Flair for the WCW NWA Heavyweight Championship. After a contract dispute, he left WCW and would return back to the WWF in 1991 under the moniker The Dragon. But rather than use his past popularity to their advantage, the WWF erased his previous run and he was treated as a brand new wrestler. Steamboat would literally come out as a fire-breathing dragon, complete with dragon scales. But he never went past mid-card level and felt he was completely underutilized since his elevated success in WCW. In fact, plans were made for him to job to The Undertaker, but Steamboat chose to leave the WWF instead of losing. Number 8. Marc Mero. Mero was known as the flamboyant role of Johnny B. Bad in WCW, who was a Little Richard lookalike. He grew to the ranks of top WCW talent during the early to mid-90s, winning the World Television Championship 3 times. He was brought into the WWF in 1996, but Vince wanted Mero to have the Johnny B. Bad character. Unfortunately, WCW owned the rights to the name. Mero was hyped coming into the WWF as the Wild Man, but it became apparent that Mero was a bland babyface, and any charisma Mero possessed was all down to his Johnny B. Bad character. Mero had been trained for that role, and with that Mero had no idea how to transfer that charisma into another character. It soon became clear that fans and Vince were more interested in his wife and valet Sable than the Wild Man himself. Number 9. Ultimo Dragon. Ultimo Dragon is arguably one of the most innovative superstars in the last couple of decades, establishing a 3-year run in WCW, winning both the Cruiserweight and World Television title on 2 occasions. Yes, he had much bigger success in both Japan and Mexico, but his WCW days were at least memorable, unlike his WWE run, where it's sad to say his most memorable moment was his slip at WrestleMania 20. He had some great matches with the likes of Mysterio, Guerrero and Tajiri, but didn't really leave a mark with the company, and left just only a year later. And number 10. Barry Windham. Windham achieved most of his success in the NWA, but he carried on that success into WCW. Unlike others on this list, failure would come twice in the WWF. We don't count the Widowmaker to be a fail as he had nothing to do with his gimmick. Hot after winning the NWA Championship just 3 years prior, Windham returned to the WWF in 1996 as the Stalker. A number of vignettes showed promise to the gimmick, and the original plan was to have him feud with Marc Mero after stalking Sable, threatening to cut her throat. The idea was canned and the Stalker entered with little fanfare as a babyface, debuting at the 1996 Survivor Series. A year after, Windham turned heel and formed the New Blackjacks with Bradshaw, but the team was short-lived, not having much success in the tag division. There had then been plans for Windham to join Cornette's NWA faction during its invasion, but those plans were also scrapped. Windham then left the WWF for good and once again returned to WCW. Well guys, that about wraps up this episode here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did and leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe if you already haven't, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.